Welcome back to Counterculture, comic night with Pastor Mark. That's what we were just having. We were just laughing,
having jocularity,
and now we have to be serious.
We have to be serious.
It's an actual serious topic. Hey, we talk about some things that are maybe counterculture-ish, and that's exactly where our world is today. Right there is a bunch of things where we need to be different than those who are around us.
Right.
So, John chapter 2. I want to read some verses that I've never really paid attention to, and then I'm hoping that you can apply them. That would be great. Are you ready? That's a long pause.
I was born ready.
There we go. That took a long time for me to get that. All right. It says this. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs that he was doing. But Jesus, on his part, did not entrust himself to them because he knew all people and needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man. So we look at this, and it's very interesting to me, right? There's some things that pop out to me, but I want to start with you. When you look at these verses, what stands out? How do you understand it?
I think if you read that section, and we didn't read the stuff before it. Mm-hmm. Miraculous signs and wonders. Their purpose is not for a holy show, but they are to draw people to the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it's not, I'm going to perform a miracle here so I can show off. He's not showing up saying, look, here's my power, here's what I can do. Here's what I think is funny. Not funny, but interesting. He would not entrust himself to him. There's this interesting thing that people think in the church that we have to trust each other.
Oh, really?
And, if Jesus did not... Now, we're not Jesus, so we don't know what was in a man's heart. That's what's different, is he knows. And I think that is what omniscience means.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
More so than whether Jesus knows... Does he know everything? And that's what a lot of people think omniscience is that God's sovereignty is God. He's all-knowing. He knows exactly what we're going to do.
Yep.
He knows exactly what I was going to wear and pick and the whole... Okay, that could be debated. What I do know is that he knows what was in a man.
Yep.
He knows me better than I know me. Okay, so you could argue that, well, then that means he knows what choices he's going to make. Well, then you can argue, if he knows the choice I'm going to make, then I no longer have free will because I got to make that choice if he's going to be. Now, someone could say that's circular reasoning. I don't think it's circular reasoning. It does mean, though, if he knows, then I don't have that choice anymore because then I have to make that choice. So I think God, that's where human freedom comes in, free will. God lets us choose. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want us to be drones that he's controlling everything we make anyway, which is why I have a problem with, I'm going to get in trouble, tulip. Anyway, he didn't entrust himself because he knew their intentions were, we just want the show.
Yeah.
I think he knew they're not really interested in me, mm-hmm. in God, in what God has to offer them, other than, wow, that was really cool. All Jesus needed was a barker. Hey, step right up. Watch the show here. No, he could have made some money on that baby by probably doing that. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very powerful statement, mm-hmm. and it is one that. And I had to learn this through a trainings, a seminar that I went through, is not everybody is trustworthy. Even in the church.
Like pretty much no one is trustworthy.
Yeah, probably even ourselves at times. Mm-hmm. Even preachers at times. But you can't trust the pastor. Well, pastor may not trust the layman. You get burned a few times.
So I think...
Now, and I will tell you on a personal note here, I used to trust... I would just trust all the time. My wife would get at me. She goes, you just trust him. Until I got burned bad enough that I swung the pendulum the other way. And I was like, I was talking to a buddy of mine and I said, I just don't trust that God's going to take care of me. And it was crickets on the other end of the line. And he goes, well, now we're on to something, aren't we? Because I had gotten burned so bad that it was like, well, God, if he can't take care of this, then how can I trust him? And I had to swing back to center and say, okay, wait a minute here. I get to decide who I trust. And not everybody's trustworthy. And then I get to decide how much am I going to trust them with. Right now was a huge thing. So all you watching this, I just trusted you a little bit with my story. What will you do with it? Are you going to be bad with it and abuse it? Then we got problems.
So I think there's a ton in what you just said, right? That goes with being counterculture, right? First of all, I think that, again, tons of people argue the circular reasoning about does God know all things and does he know everything you're going to do? And I think the answer to that for me has always been simplistic, and he's outside of time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So he sees everything. He knows the beginning from the end, all of those kind of things. So but he just simply knows, right? And I've never put that into, well, then that whole, I don't get free will and all those kind of things. It doesn't affect me every single morning when I go pick out what I'm going to wear.
Yeah,
I don't think,
right.
What does God
God
know
just
what
says,
I'm going to wear?
please wear something. No one wants to see you running around without a shirt on.
Right. But what I do think,
that was my statement, not about you. I mean, maybe people do want to see you running around with a shirt. I don't. But I mean, hey.
I do think that what Jesus is saying here is, I have one of these phrases that me and our producer argue about frequently, right? And it's if you trust anybody to be anything other than human, you're an idiot, right? And the concept for me is it doesn't relieve me of trusting people, but I simply need to trust that they're going to be human, right? So the truth of the matter is, it's funny because my standard of trust is never break it. Mm-hmm. But I don't have that same standard for me, right? My standard for me is if there's a good reason to break it,
yeah.
Right? And we're always looking for those reasons, and we lower the standard for ourselves and we heighten it for other people.
Yeah,
right? I don't think that there's anybody I've ever met that I could trust completely, right? To think about me more than they think about themselves. I know people that are 99% there. Like they have this unbelievable ability, but every once in a while it slips up and they think about themselves. Right? So we think that what Jesus is saying here is what you said. First of all, that is so applicable to what we're about. Jesus knew the hearts of men, and he didn't entrust himself to them.
Yeah.
Like, listen, you don't always want what's best for me, and you don't always know what's best for me. Mm-hmm. And we see that played out with Peter, right? Yeah. When Peter says, hey, you're never going to die. You're never, ever, ever going to die. And Jesus is like, get behind me, Satan. Right? So I think that when it comes to counterculture, we need to be careful. I guess I would ask you these questions. Do you totally entrust yourself to our government?
Oh my gosh, no, I hope not. No, I was just going to say, that's what why wouldn't you trust the government? Why would I? Why would I trust the science? Okay, we already know you're not supposed to question science. That is the whole point of science, is to question and to keep asking those questions.
That's what we were taught.
And now we're being shown. And you got to trust the mainstream media. No, I don't think so, because now we're finding out, as we always do with political things, is that I guess my intuition on this was correct.
Yeah.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And if, as someone put on Facebook, a little thing, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a things don't seem to be adding up theorist, So call it what you want,
Do you think people, in our culture today, do you think people have a reason to totally trust the leaders in their churches?
I think there has been a great compromise. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's, I'm going to use the phrase, the used car salesman syndrome.
Yep.
Well, if one pastor was bad, then they're all bad. Mm-hmm. It's like when I have people say, well, I just quit going to church because there was one person that just was really mean to me. And here's my response. Were there other people that were nice to you and that showed you, oh my gosh, the whole church was really good, but it was just that one person. So you get this blank piece of paper and there's a black dot on it, or whatever color dot, I don't care what it is. And it's like, we'll focus on the dot instead of saying, wow, there's all this blank paper. And so there's this thing that if we get burned once by one person, we're burned by them all. And Kierkegaard, I think it was the one that said, when you label me, you don't know me. That's my loose translation.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think it was Kierkegaard that put that premise out there. When you label me, you don't know me. So, you're a preacher. I had a buddy, I met his father-in-law one day, and his father goes, what do you do for a living? And my buddy looked at me and goes, he needs to know. He's trying to size you up.
Yep.
So he has an idea of where you fit in the category. And so when I was working at one time with this seminar thing that we did, kind of a recovery kind of thing, we would tell people, leave your social masks outside the room. Because it doesn't matter what you do in here for a living or what your role is. Come in here and just be you for a minute without any hats on.
Yep.
And that is a wonderful place to be when you get that. But we can come in and we can, a lot of times I don't tell people I'm a pastor. If they ask what I do for a living, I say, well, I'm a life coach, or I'm a spiritual life coach, or I'm a parochial administrator.
Yep.
Because if I say pastor, sometimes it just puts them right on the defensive. Oh, we can't talk to him, or I don't get to see the real them.
Yeah,
that real and I fine, drop your language, whatever. I'll work around it. And then I've had them go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you're a pastor, which is always fun, by the way. But
so I've often thought, as a pastor, once in a while, I would go into a bar, right? Because bars have great chicken wings. They have great food, right?
Yes.
Or because people that I know were there. And I always thought, if I walk into that bar and I announce, say, excuse me, can I have your attention? I just need you all to know that I'm a pastor. If it changes the atmosphere of that bar, I don't think I want to eat there. But if I walk into the bar and I say, hey, I'm a pastor, and everybody's like, all right, well, good for you, and they just keep doing their thing, I want to eat there. There's real people. Yeah. Right? And so I think what you're saying, I think there's a lot of times where we give ourselves titles. I don't think Jesus walked around telling everybody he was a pastor. Right? I think sometimes we give titles and we want to attach that title because it gives meaning to things, or it lets us eat first in a line. Remember the good old days when pastors ate first?
I know.
Now we're told that pastors should eat last because we take care of people, right? But
well, the good news about that is if there's any poison in the food, it's like you got this whole line of cupbearers to the king. And if they start dropping, run, man, run.
There's this whole idea though, like, do we need those things, right? Jesus seemingly in here says, I don't need that. I don't need your permission to do what I'm doing. I don't need you to give me authority to do what I'm doing. I know all of you, right? Yeah. And I know that given the opportunity, you're all going to turn your back on me. Oh, by the way, it was proven to be true. Yeah. Right? And I think that, again, love always trusts, right? But that's godly love, right? That always trusts what? That God's working all things out for good. Right? So even if you let me down, God's going to work it out. Right? Yeah. So again,
and we will. That's the interesting thing. And when I was part of doing an inner healing journey in one of the segments of this seminar, this training that I was a part of, we would often do some processing afterward. Yeah. And debriefing. People would have a hard time. Well, why didn't Jesus stop what was going on before I got hurt?
Right.
And the best answer I had at the time, and it still kind of works for me, I guess maybe it's the best one I have right now, is human freedom stinks. We want it. Yeah. I want it for me. I probably talked about this on one of the shows, whatever. I want it for me.
Yep.
Because I'm trustworthy. I'm not going to hurt anybody.
That's right.
But
me.
I want God, you make sure Andy does not have human freedom because he can't be trusted like me, God. And he's liable to hurt me. But Andy's sitting over here praying, God, I can handle free will. I can handle the human freedom. But you keep Mark from having it because he could hurt me. So now that we got to Jesus has to figure out whose prayers do I answer? And it would be mine because the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. So here's the thing is human freedom stinks.
Yeah, it does.
It's a wonderful thing, but it's a terrible thing because it does give us the permission, not the permission, it gives us the ability to do good things. Yeah. Don't use your freedom as license, Paul said in Galatians. Don't use it to just do whatever you want. Discipline it. Use it for good. But you run the risk that you're going to get hurt. And we almost always, as the old Mills Brothers song says, you always hurt the one you love. Yep. And that's almost it. And you know why? You know what that is, though, is because we care. If I just, we say something to a stranger, they don't care because we have no connection to them. We don't matter to them. But I probably hurt my wife more than anything,
Sure.
anybody, because she's one of the closest people to me, and it's the same thing. Is it intentional? And I've told my congregation, I said, I will probably hurt you at some point. It will not be intentionally, but it will just happen because I am a human.
Yep.
And I make, no, that was not the best decision in the world. It happens to all of us.
Well, we want to be godly, but that doesn't mean we are godly all the time.
Yes.
Right? And so again, if my expectation is that you are godly all the time, I'm going to have a problem.
Yeah. I just heard a preacher say this. It's probably going to come into my message this Sunday, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm hoping I said this right. He said, Christ likeness is normal, but it's not natural.
I like that.
It's not natural. It can be normal, a normal part of our lives, but it's not natural for it to be. We have to let God do the work in us to help us have that become a natural part of our life.
Yeah.
As He transforms us into His image.
And obviously, Jesus knew that people weren't natural yet.
Yes.
Perfect.
Right.
Hey, that's a great place to leave this counterculture. Join us next time as we continue to look at some things that are going against your everyday life, maybe, and how to be more Christ-like in those moments. We'll see you next time.